Haboim, welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Vov Amud Aleph, 4 lines from the top. The Gemara takes a temporary digression from the subject of Chametz by speaking about when you have property that also has ownership by a Nochri, what is the din in certain circumstances? Says the Gemara the following question, Boy Minei Rava. Rava was asked, Behemas Arnoina, Chayeves bebechara or ein chayeves bebechara. Arnona are taxes from the government, and when it comes to a bechar in one's herd, the Jew is obligated to give that bechar, the firstborn of his flock, to the kohen. So when it is owned or partially owned as a partnership with a nachri, it's pater from bechara. So here the Gemara's question is, the arnona, the taxes that are obligated that a Jew must give from his flock, which is 10% of the flock, does that make it so that he's now pater from his obligation of bechara or not? Says the Gemara, Lo kami boy lon de chayeves. Sorry, kol heicha de mati misalek le bezuzi lo kami boy lon de chayeves. If he's able, the Jew is able to then give money to the government in lieu of that taxation without giving an animal, so then he's obligated in his obligation to give the bechor to the kohen. That's not part of the question. That's obvious, says the Gemara. Ki kami boilon heicha deloy matzi misalek le bezuzi. The question is when he cannot give money and pay that for his taxes. He must give the behema. What's the din? Omar lehu, Rav responded, Petura. He's pater from giving bechara to the kohen. Because after all, since the government has their rights to the herd, at least 10% of it, therefore there's a partnership going on between the nachri, the malchus, and the Jew who owns the eider, the herd, whereby he's pater from bechara. I asked the Gemara Vahatanya, behold, it states in the Brisa the opposite. Chayeves. Some answers the Gemara, the Mati Misalek Le. There in the Brisa it says Mechayeves, it's talking about where he can go ahead and give money in lieu of the animal. So therefore, he's then obligated in his obligation of giving Bechar to the Kohen. Ikedamri, however, there's another version. Says the Gemara, Omar Rave, that Rave responded, it depends. Behemas arnona petura mina bechara. Afal gav the matzi misalek le. Even though, indeed, he can go ahead and pay off the malchus with money, still, says Rava, he's pater from bechara. Because since there's no obligation at this point, there was no kinyan that the malchus had on the animal, so therefore, he's able to go ahead and say that there is right now going to be a ownership. At this point, there's still going to be an ownership. And so although he cannot pay off the malchus, but nonetheless, there's some sort of ownership over here that makes it so that he's pater from bechara. However, Isas arnona chayeves bechala. But when it comes to dough, where a Jew has to take out chala and also give it to a kohen, again, if it's owned by a nachri or it's a partnership with the nachri, then it's pater from chala. So it says over here, even though Rava says he is not able to misalik him, he cannot go ahead and give money to the malchus, and he must go ahead and give Isa, still he's going to be chayeves. And here we have to understand what is the reason, after all, if indeed it's going to be owned by the Nachri, so I should be chayeves in chala. My time I asked the Gemara, what's the reason for this chiluk? Says the Gemara, behema isle kola. When it comes to the animal, so there is a kol. That means that people will know about the fact that the bechar is not given because they understand since the arnona is now leaned. In other words, there's an animal of the aid that must go to the malchus. So therefore, the Gemara says, according to that, since there's a kol, it's going to be understood they're going to be pater from the bechara. However, when it comes to chala, even though midi araisa, in truth, one would be indeed also potter. But since there's no kol, says the Gemara, when it comes to challah, les le kola, thereby nobody knows about it. Maris ayin, people will think that you're going to go ahead and eat your challah without separating challah and giving it to a kohen. They won't know that when it comes to this Isa, that it's really going to be belonging also to the Nachri, to the Malchus. So therefore, midirabanan, he's obligated to give the challah to the kohen, even though midiraisa, it truly is potter. So therefore it comes out that the brisa that we asked from, Barei, it says in the brisa chayeves, that's talking about, according to the second version, the case of the challah. In that case of the Isa, that's when it's going to be chayev. And that which Rava said was talking about in the case of Arnona. Now the Gemara brings back the subject of chametz. Tanu Rabbanan bring the following brisa. Nachri shenichnas lechatzero shel Yisrael ubatzeikoi biyadai. When a nachri enters the house of a Jew with batzeik, when it comes to chametz, he's holding on to batzeik in his hands. Ein zokuk levayer. The Brisa says he's not obligated to destroy that batzeik which is in the hands of the Gentile, now is in his house. Hifkidu etzlo. However, if the Gentile deposits this Isa, this chametz, with the Jew, zokuk levayer, then the Jew must get rid of it. Yichei loy bayis, the Brisa continues, if the Jew gives him an area of the house, he's miyached him a makom, then ein zokuk levayer, then he doesn't have to go ahead and get rid of the chametz. Shenemar, it says in the pasuk, lo yimatzei, that which is not found. Ask the Gemara, my ka'omar, what was meant? The end of the brisa just stated that when he's miyached a makom to the nachri, the Gentile, for his Isa, so then he does not have to mevar the chametz. And then the Gemara, the brisa brings a pasuk because it says lo yimatzei. Lo yimatzei is coming to teach him a heter. The Gemara wants to understand, my Kalmar. What was this brisa saying? Answers Gemara, Amar Rav Papa, Areshakoi. This brisa is going back on the Resha when it says, Lo Yimatzei. V'hochi Kalmar, and this is how you have to read the brisa. Hifkidu etzloi, when the Gentile, he deposits the chametz by the Jew, then Zakuk Levar, then the Jew has to get rid of the chametz. Shenemar says, Lo Yimatzei, can't be found. And since you took achrayis for this chametz that was deposited by you, therefore it will be an iser midi araisa to maintain the chametz. You must get rid of it. Rav Ashi Omar, Rav Ashi explains differently. La'olam asefakoi, la'olam the brayso that says lo talmunam la'mar shenemar lo yimatzei is going on the seifa. Ask the Gemara. We said, how could that be? The seifa is saying a heter, and then it brings a pasuk lo yimatzei. Explains the Gemara. It says, "V'hochi kamar yichei loy bayis ein zokuk levar." If you were miyached a makom to the Gentile to put his chametz, and you said you place it in front of you, meaning in your place in this house, then he does not have to get rid of it. Shene'amar, as this pasuk says, "Lo yimatzeh bibateichem." Here he adds an explanation because the next word of the pasuk is bibateichem. It can't be found in your homes. And therefore, v'ho lavdi dehu. Behold, it's not his home, it's not the Jew's home, because there's miyached a makom to the nochri. The nochri ki kamiyayel lebeisa, the nafshe kamiyayel. When the Gentile entered the house with his chametz, and the Jew was miyached him a makom, he's entering his own place. Therefore, it's not considered to be a problem. Ask the Gemara, lememra the schirus kanya. Does that mean to say because he was miyached in makom, then he was acquired? He made a schirus and he acquired that place. The Gentile acquired that place. V'hatnan. Behold, it states in the Mishnah in regards to avodah zara. It states that there's a machlokes whether you can go ahead and sell a house to a nachri. So everybody agrees in Eretz Yisrael you cannot, but there's an opinion that says outside of Eretz Yisrael you could. However, that's only in regards to then selling him a house to then keep his animals or his property there, but not that he should have it as a residential area for him to live in. Vatnan states in the Mishnah, even a place where they said you could be maskir and rent out a makom to a nochri, that means outside of Eretz Yisrael. Loy lebeis dira amr. They didn't say for residential purposes. Because he could bring avodah zarah into that house, and there's an iser d'oraisa not to bring a to'eva into the house, into avodah zarah, into one's house. And therefore, we see from this Mishnah that you, as a Jew who owns this house, would be considered to be obligated. It'll be an iser d'oraisa. And therefore, we see it's considered to be your house, even though you rent it out to the Gentile. Because if you're going to say there was an acquisition by the Gentile, then when he's bringing in the avodah zarah into the house, he's bringing his own. So therefore, the same thing when it comes to the chametz. When he's bringing the chametz, if it's not a schirus, therefore, how can you say he's bringing his own? He's bringing it to your house, even though you're miyached amakom. Answers the Gemara, shiny. Here, in regards to chametz, is different. Because the Torah said, even though you're not making an acquisition, but when it comes to chametz, the Torah says, lo yimatzei, it should not be found. Mishematzui biyadcha, that which is found in your hands. To exclude this in a case where the Gentile took his own achrayis, and you were miyached him a makom, therefore you're not over the obligation, the transgression of bal yimatzei. Says the Gemara, Vayter Amar Yehuda Marav. What do you do with chametz that is found on Pesach? Says the Gemara, Hamoitze chametz bebeso b'yontif. If you find chametz in your house on yontif on Pesach, koife alov es hakli. You should cover it up with a kli, as not to then come to then perhaps take the chametz and accidentally come to eat it. Now you cannot go ahead and move the chametz to destroy it because it's muktzah. It has no purpose on Yom Tif. So you have to then cover it with a kli. Omar Rava says, Im shel hekdesh hu eino tzarich. However, if this chametz that you found is hekdesh, then you don't have to even cover up with a kli. Because why, says the Gemara, my taima? Mivdal badile mine. Because you're already accustomed to being separated from that hekdesh chametz. Since the whole year round you would desist from it, therefore, so too on Pesach, you'll also equally desist from it. So you have to be koifa lekli. Says the Gemara, V'amar Yehuda Marav, Chemtzer shel nochri oiselei mechitza asar tfachim mishum heker. If you have chametz, again, you didn't take achrayis. It was the goy's chametz. You're miyached him a makom. So you have to then make a mechitza of asar tfachim, be separating the chametz from where you are, from your house. Because after all, one day during Yom Tov itself, we said the din is to be kofe akli, but this is for the whole week of Pesach. So you have to make a proper mechitza. So you shouldn't come on to then chametz and make it separate from yourself. V'im shel hekdeshu ein otzarich. However, if that chametz that even is there, which is hekdesh, there you don't have to make even a mechitza. Again, for the same reason, because we said you'll go and separate yourself from it. My taimo, mivdo badili in sheminei. A person anyways is accustomed to separate himself from chametz that is hekdesh over the course of the year. Now on Pesach, it's equally going to be something that's bodil from him. Says the Gemara Vayter, what happens when a person is leaving his home before Pesach? Does he have to get rid of his chametz or not? Rav Yehuda Marav, Hamefaresh v'hayoytze b'shayara. A person is going out on a journey, on a sea voyage, or he's going out with a caravan. Koydem shloishim yoim ein zok levar. Toich shloishim yoim zok levar. If it's within 30 days, he does not have to destroy his chametz, where he is leaving from. And therefore, he can leave the chametz in his house, where it's going to then be, and leave on his journey. He doesn't have to mevar. But if it's toich shloishim yoim, zok levar. But if it's within 30 days, that means from the time of Purim and afterwards, after Yudalid Adar, then he will have to mevar his chametz. Says Abai, Omar Abai, to explain. That which we said that he has to get rid of the chametz if it's going to be within 30 days of Pesach. That's when he intends to return. But if he does not intend to return to his house after that journey, then he's not going to be in his house during Pesach, then he does not have to mevar. He can leave even within 30 days and leave the chametz where it is, it's considered to be then something that is not accessible, and therefore it's mutter to leave in the house. Omar le Rava. Rava argues on Abai, and he says, no. He says, if he intends to return on Pesach, then no matter how much time before he leaves, even if it's going to be Rosh Hashanah, right? Chanukah doesn't make a difference when, he'll have to go ahead and mevar his chametz, because after all, he may return, therefore, on Pesach. He'll then have come across chametz on Pesach. And therefore, if he hasn't mevar, if he hasn't destroyed his chametz, he hasn't mevatel his chametz, then he's going to be in a problem of bal yimotze, bal yiroya. So he has to get rid of the chametz if he's going to go on a journey even as early as Rosh Hashanah. Elomar Rav, therefore Rav says this is the din. That's what you said before 30 days. He does not have to mevarer. So that's when he does not intend to return. Then when it comes to Chanukah, he went on his journey and doesn't intend to come back to that house, he does not have to get rid of his chametz. But if it's going to be where he intends to return, then he does, yes, have to mevayer. But again, if it's within 30 days, even if he does not intend to return, he will have to mevar, because within 30 days has dinim that are shaykh the midirabanan to then get rid of your chametz. And therefore, since we start getting involved with the inyan of chametz within 30 days, midirabanan, it says that we're sharlim v'darshin 30 days before the Chag. Therefore, after Purim, then a person would have to then get rid of his chametz if he's going on a journey, even if he does not intend to return on Pesach. Says the Gemara to explain, Va'oz the Rava l'taimei, and Rava goes according to his reasoning. The Omar Rava, if Rava said, Ha'oise beisoy oitzar, a person who makes his house into an oitzar, into a storehouse, that means to say, he has chametz in, let's say, a room, and then he covers all of that chametz with different types of produce and other things. If it's koydem shloshim yoim, ein zakul levar. If it's if it's 30, earlier than 30 days, then he doesn't have to mevar the chametz that has been buried underneath. It's considered to be then something that's inaccessible. But if it's within 30 days, then zakul levar, he must get rid of it, because again, midirabanan, he has an obligation to get rid of the chametz. He is already shaykhis to the dinim of chametz and matzah of Pesach, and therefore midrabanan he has to get rid of it, even though he does not intend, right? Even though it's considered to be buried, but nonetheless it's within 30 days. V'koydem shloshim yom, that which we said you don't have to mevar if it's before 30 days. Let's say Chanukah or Rosh Hashanah. That's if he does not intend to then get rid of all of the area of that storehouse, whereby he'll then come across the chametz. But aval daito lifanoisay afilu kodim shloshim yom nami zok levar. But even if it's going to be Rosh Hashanah or Chanukah, and he does intend to go ahead and clear out that area, then chametz will then appear, whereby he would have to mevar his chametz, even if it's going to be earlier than 30 days. So it comes out that when it comes to then Rava l'shitaso, again, when a person is going to then go on a trip, he's going to leave where he lives. If he's going to then leave within 30 days, then he has to then mevar his chametz. If he's going to leave be earlier than 30 days, it depends. If he's going to come back on Pesach, then it's likely then he'll find chametz, of course, and therefore he has to mevar his chametz before he goes. If, however, he does not intend to return, then he doesn't have to mevar his chametz.